All right. Let's start. Get started. Thank you. This is the hopefully will be a fun conversation. You can ask me anytime. So I'm going to make it because I don't know the background. Should I do it more elementary? So should I go deep? Seems like some of the question is quite deep. So I have a few slides that is really more very elementary in case the audience is broader, but seems like you guys are interested on something deep. We can go to that as well. Okay. But let me give you a little bit background on myself and then the topic why I do what I do today. So I my background is engineering and physics. Yeah, I grew up. My undergraduate is physics. I always interested in engineering and electrical engineering when I was young in my middle school and early high school. I'm interested in that. But then later I'm interested more on the something that more principle. So I chose to do physics as my undergraduate because of that. So I did my undergraduate in physics, but I'm interested in so many things. So I took many classes for many different subjects, basically. Uh, One in my senior year, uh, there is a young professor came back. I was in Indonesia. I grew up in Indonesia. A young professor came back from University of Florida and from Wisconsin. Those two professors, one is from statistics department, the other one from operation research. Yeah. So those two came back from to Indonesia to my university with PhD from Wisconsin and from Florida, and I took their classes, of course, right? Okay, this is interesting conversation. So I took classes, and one in statistics department, the other one in industrial engineering, one about statistics, the other one about uh, optimization and simulation, discrete event simulation. That caught my attention in the opening it up. It's something different from my training in physics. So I thought it was interesting. And like many other people, when you're young, you don't know what to do, right? You don't know what you want to do. So I ended up with this industrial engineering sounds fun. Okay, so I ended up with industrial engineering. I went to the US, right? I got the assistantship, research assistantship from Ford Motor Company. So uh, I didn't have luxury like any traditional PhD student or graduate student. When you're in school, you take classes and you spend your time in lab, in university lab, and all those things. I didn't have that luxury. Okay, because my school, my education paid by Ford Motor Company, so Ford chose which school I go, which area to study, which area to do research, and all of those things. So this is the early the late 80 early 90, so way before you were born. Yeah, at that time the revival of Detroit automotive industry, the movement that they want to do quality engineering. So my field, I study quality engineering, do research in quality engineering. I wrote and my background in always interest in on more the math side and my interest in signal processing and all of those things. So my work was mostly on the control on Kalman filter, how to apply those into process control. So that's but then the this is now I'm talking about my pivot to artificial intelligence. Uh, I did as a young graduate student. I wrote paper on this subject. Yeah, I wrote paper on this subject and I submitted to a journal, applied journal in quality engineering. And my paper was rejected. right? So as a lowly young graduate student, my paper get rejected. And but a few months later, about 6 months later, a similar paper show up, written by senior professor who are editor of that journal. Wrote the paper, have similar flavor with his graduate student. Yeah, I was very angry. I was very upset. How is this? This field is crazy. It's so unethical. Yeah. A young graduate student tried to do something and your idea get copied and stolen and the guy published it. Of course the guy published it because it's a big name in the field. Yeah. So make me angry. So I told my advisor, I'm done with this field. Okay. I was in industrial engineering. I said, I'm done with this field. I'm not going to do research on this field anymore. Okay. So I walk across the hall. Okay. Across the hall is electrical engineering department. Yeah. It's a young professor, a young gun. Okay. Just got a award from the first George W. Bush. Yeah. A young presidential award in things, and his work is in associative memory. Okay. This is 90, the 90, yeah, early 90 in associative memory. And I don't know what associative memory is, but it sounds interesting. It's neural networks. Okay. So I end up, I talked to this professor, very young, very tough professor. Rarely students want to work under him because he's very known to be very demanding. But I say, okay, I'll do it. Let me see what this field about. That's what's my pivot into neural networks. Yeah, that today become deep learning. Okay, it's the early day in that. It's just by accident because your anger. Yeah, when you're young, your anger. So I decided to do that. Took a few classes, more classes. I switched to a more electrical engineering flavor. A lot of a lot of signal processing and pattern recognition and neural networks. From the classic book, right? And by the way, I end up it made me happier too because the content. No offense to industrial engineering department, but electrical engineering just have more mathematical content. Okay, signal processing is very heavy content mathematics. Control is very mathematics, basically applied mathematics. So the mathematics is a lot more content than industrial engineering. So I feel like I really enjoy it, and then I work on pattern recognition and the early day of neural networks. So it's in my field at that time was something that probably will surprise many of you if you work in neural network is autoencoder. Yeah. Today people talk about autoencoder. I work in autoencoder in the early 90s. I remember in 97, the biggest conference today in neural network is NeurIPS. Okay. NeurIPS is the biggest one. At that time it's called NIPS. Yeah. And I and my professor attended NIPS workshop in autoencoder. Yeah. Oh, the name at that time is just a regular name. But when you look at the name today, it's all the big name, Jeff Hinton and all of those things. We were in the same room, yeah, talking about this in the mid 90s. I graduated in mid 90s. Yeah, I graduated with machine learning, and my dissertation is on that subjects in the 90s. But I always do something that my focus was always something that in the interface between statistical machine learning at that time, statistics basically, no machine learning, uh, and the neural network pattern recognition from signal processing from electrical engineering. So it's in the interface of the two. So a lot of the early days of my work inspired by very well known machine learning people today, like Jerry Friedman, the gradient boosting machine, Leo Bremen, the Random Forest, right? Trevor Hesty, Rob Tipsirani, the Lasso guy, yeah. So all of those things, and we talk about principal curve, and this is basically manifold at that time, but before we call it such thing in machine learning. So that I was inspired by that. But when you graduate in the 90s, because the reason I tell you this story because you're early on this, you have to make decision about your career and all of those things. Yeah. So I graduated with PhD in this field. Yeah. But 30 years too early. Okay. When you graduate in mid 90 with machine learning, no such thing as machine learning job. The field doesn't exist. Yeah. And I am not statistician. I don't have statistics degree. I cannot work on the data side. People will take me. I'm not going to name a name here. One of big, and which you can guess it, one of big statistical software company. Okay, I apply. Nobody look at my resume. Yeah, because who is this guy? Okay, he has no background in statistics, right? So I end up at the Ford Motor Company. Continue after because all my education paid by Ford Motor Company and all of those things. I ended up looking for a job and working at Ford Motor Company. Of course, I was an F1 student. Yeah, I was an F1 using F1 visa student. Ford won't hire me, right? Because I have to be at least a U.S. permanent resident or U.S. Citizens, right? So Ford won't hire me, so I have to work through a small company, agency company, that they get placed to Ford. That's how I end up. And because you graduate with machine learning, you graduate with all those things. No such job as machine learning engineer. Yeah, I have to work on real machine. I work on engine, yeah, car engine. Okay, so I make my first 12 years of my career, including my assistantship and all of those things, is in engine design. So that's my that was I ended up with. And if you think about it, in the early 2000, for example, yeah, neural network is dead. Nobody want to touch neural network. No research funding in that area. Neural network is dead in 2000. It's supplanted by other field. Yeah, in the machine learning, it's all gradient boosting machine. It's all support vector machine. I don't know if you know all of this now, but it's a support vector machine is the big things, right? The kernel machine is a big thing at that time because mathematically it's so elegant. And deep learning has no math. It's all a bunch of heuristic, very simple math. Even the optimization is a first order optimization, gradient descent. Okay, stochastic gradient descent cannot be any simpler than that. Okay, if you talk about simple gradient descent like that in industrial engineering with operation research people, they're going to laugh at you. Yeah, it's a joke. Okay. Yeah, in my area because I came from those area with industrial engineering and operation research and all those things. Those are a joke. Okay, at that time. Yeah. So that's in the early 2000 is relatively dead. And I work as an engine design. Okay, an engine. So I cannot continue to do all of this thing that I learned in my PhD. Right? And this is important for you because you're thinking open-minded in terms of research. So I switched completely. What is needed in around my area? Around my area is about design, people designing things. So I'm thinking about how to design it better, how to make design under uncertainty, because when you have product operate under many different situations, it has to be optimization under uncertainty. So I work a lot in that field. I call it analytical reliability and robustness and design optimization, design of experiment, statistical design of experiment. So my publication completely changed. Yeah. In mid 90, I published in Neural Networks Journal. Yeah. in the early 2000, my publication is in ASME, a statistic in a Society of Mechanical Engineering. Yeah, I work a lot with a few other professors while I'm working, and she is one of my collaborator in that. Now is the chair of Mechanical Engineering Department, Northwestern University. Yeah, we work a lot on that. I and as a student built algorithms for design optimization. That's until today still the most efficient algorithms. So completely changed. I I designed brand new engine. Okay, for Ford Motor Company, part of that engine design, leading the analytical design of that modeling. We do engine design through all mathematical model. Yeah, build the engine from the ground up. The first 10 months, the first year, it's very intense mathematical modeling from the structural side to thermodynamic side, everything you name it. Yeah, to noise, vibration, and everything you name it. So that's what I did. The design optimization, design of computer experiment, because we want to optimize it using computer model. We cannot do optimization in the physical object because it's too late. So we do all that. So I built a lot of math behind it, and I published a book on that. So you can find it in Amazon. That the book is still used today. I know it's still used today because I still get royalty, crazy things. Okay. It's about computer experiment, how you experiment, design, because at that time, when you do simulation on thermal cycling of engine thermal cycling, one computer run 5 days in Cray computer, supercomputer that's liquid cooled. Okay, at that time, yeah, you do computational fluid dynamics, 3D simulation. It takes many days to run it. So you cannot just run a lot of stuff. Okay. You have to really narrow it down. Okay. And how to run it in very efficient way and how to model it. So because my interest is always with statistics and things, so it's always into that region. And I work on the on Gaussian processes. Yeah, and today it's very popular again too. If you explain in infinitely wide neural network, it's Gaussian processes. Yeah, if you try to explain in context learning, yeah, in context learning, people explain it from Gaussian processes. It's crazy how this thing all connected. I approach it differently, but it's Gaussian processes. At that time, nobody thinking about Gaussian processes as machine learning. Today, Gaussian processes machine learning. Okay. At that time, no. At that time, we call it kriging. Okay. This is a tool that civil engineer, environmental engineer use. Yeah. To model. I use it to model computer experiment. It's in that book that I wrote. Yeah. So switch completely switched on that. And then in the engine release, so if you look at which engine do this one is, and the book they have a lot of example on that. It's a 3.5 liter V6 engine for Motor Company. Yeah, that is a in Ford F-150 today. The engine is probably 1 million engine produced every year, so it's the most reliable engine ever. So I'm still very proud about that accomplishment. And that engine is probably, I think, is the last internal combustion engine that was designed by Ford Motor Company. But let me tell you this because your world will change, will evolve, especially right now. Things changing so fast. Okay, and then we'll talk about the math after this. Okay, go to why I moved to this. The So my interest on the mathematical approach is always very grounded on the mathematical approach. I want to design things in very scientific using math, using whatever math that is very useful. Then I moved to banking. Right, I moved to banking in the early 2000, mid 2000, almost 2000, early 2004. I moved to banking. I work on financial crime. I work on credit, so including during the big financial crisis in 2008. I'm in the middle of that because I was the head of quants on consumer credit for Bank of America. Then I moved to UK as the director of analytics for UK commercial bank, largest bank. Lloyd's banks. And then in 2013, I came back to the US. I worked for Wells Fargo as the head of model risk management. Okay, so my life in banking, 20 something years, is all around mathematical modeling. So I oversee in Wells Fargo, I oversaw every modeling aspect. We have about 1,500 data scientists and quants. We call ourselves quants in Wells Fargo. Yeah. So 1,500 quants, every aspect from trading, from credit, from fraud, anything you name it. That's and I say this one because that's we're going to go to the math after this. Okay, but it's useful to give you background. In in all of this, machine learning coming back very strong in the around 2014, 2015. That's when I switched back again. Okay, times to go back to machine learning again. Yeah, that was around 2014. That's when I work again on the machine learning again and start anticipating and looking what's the problem. And the adoption in banking in some area are very, very skittish to adopt because they are very heavily regulated. When heavily regulated, you better know what the model is doing. This lead to explainability because some of your question is on the mechanistic explainability. And this is the problem with math, okay, machine learning. And I'll tell you why, okay? In machine learning, we always have objective function, yeah? At the end, you have objective function that you want to optimize. Machine learning, I think I'm going to skip using my slide. It's in my slide, but I'm going to skip this. Machine learning and AI, at the end of the day, it's three, I would call it four things. Yeah. It's optimization because we have objective function that you want to learn. And that's what the learning, the process, training, model training, learning is all objective function optimization, right? So machine learning is optimization. When you do optimization in continuous space, it's all calculus, right? It's all multivariate calculus. Machine learning is all about it's about algebra, about linear algebra, matrix operation, operation on factor on matrix, tensor. It's all linear algebra. When we're dealing with manifold, we always looking at manifold, then we're dealing with tangent space. Why we dealing with tangent space? So that we can apply linear algebra. Yeah. So that's always okay. And then the other side is probability because we're dealing with data. Okay. It's always probability. There's the three things. I would add one more thing that people overlook, and I will going to explain this and why this is becoming something that I'm focusing a lot is geometry. Yeah. To me, it's all about optimization, which is calculus. Talk about linear algebra. When now I put geometry on it. That's why I work on geometric algebra. Okay. And probability. So that's it. Okay. It's always those, and the foundation are there, and that's the foundation that never changed in my 30 something years. Yeah, 35 years. Those never change. The tool changes all the time. The engineering trick changes all the time. Engineering trick changes, but the principle never changes. Okay. And you and I, if why can I follow all of this? Everything changed, even I left behind. And let me tell you one of the things that interesting here. My publication in Neural Network Journal, it has a Neural Network Journal. It has a space of 25 years. Published it after my graduate student, finished my PhD, and published it 25 years later in the same journal when I came back. Yeah. But why can you come back to that field? Why can you follow? How can I follow things very, very quickly? Because the fundamental, the principle never changed. The math never changed. So when you do research, don't chase the most trendy things because that is not long lasting. Always think about fundamentally what is missing. So when I was in banking, when I was in engineering, remember about design, how to design things analytically. So I look at the math for design. In banking, I look at, okay, model, machine learning, we can use machine learning. It has to be explainable. Why? Because this is the problem with machine learning, which lead to my field that I'm spending a lot of time today. Machine learning is objective function. You output objective function and you optimize it. Yeah. And machine learning, because that objective function, the math, the solution will find to meet, to optimize the objective function. What's the problem with that? Big problem. The big problem is I am solving optimization problem. I'm going to give you the optimized thing. It may not be right solution, but it gives you answer. Yeah. It's not the right approach, but it gives you answer. That's the problem with machine learning. It's always doing shortcut to get to the objective. So because of that, when you're dealing with overly parameterized model, right? The machine learning has a lot of parameters. If you think about neural network get bigger and bigger, even gradient boosting machine 3, you boost it 1,000 times. That's a lot of parameter. So the solution is always is underdetermined problem. Yeah, if underdetermined problem, it has an interesting piece in neural network. You can train it well because it's underdetermined. Yeah, you don't get stuck in local minima, or you stuck it because if you overdetermine. I'm sorry. If you underdetermine, if you have a lot of constraint overdetermined, that is the statistical thing. You have to get global optima. If you don't get global optima, your solution is bad. Yeah, but if you have many solutions, right, get stuck in one thing is good. It's easier to optimize. That's what neural network is. It's trying to optimize it. You fall into different things. It's good. Yeah. Now, what's the problem? You can get infinite. You can have a lot of solutions to get the same answer. Not all of them good. Many of them nonsense. Yeah. This is the problem with machine learning. It's always taking shortcut, taking variable that can give you the final solution. So we have the problem when you have something like this. One is taking a shortcut. Two is learning collapse. Yeah, because you don't put structure. So how can we prevent this? Putting structure on this. That's when we talk about geometry. I have to put structure on it. The solution has to be such and such. And people doing this, by the way, some of you that in neural networks, working on neural network, people doing this, doing it softly. By what? By the objective function. I change the objective function. If you do autoencoder, you do variation autoencoder, you put constraint by callback library distance, by L2 penalty, by the norm of your weight. Okay, you put all of this massaging your objective function. So for what? To create structure. Yeah, to create structure, to shape it, to shape your architecture, to shape your representation, to have a certain structure softly by objective function. Okay, but better yet, if you don't do it softly, you enforce it through your architecture, enforce it to the design. Yeah, so by design. So it's better if you can do it by that, then you got infrastructure. I don't rely softly on objective function. That's what I did in banking at the beginning, and we'll talk about more the modern approach. In banking, model has to be interpretable. It has to be inherently interpretable. Machine learning has to be inherently interpretable. So control the architecture so that you get guaranteed to have a certain behavior. The rich part that I do have when you start talking about controlling structure, to me in math is two fields that is useful to control structure. Yeah, one is topology. Okay, two is geometry. I chose geometry because for my purpose, we'll talk about it next. Okay, so I put geometry as a structure because at the end of the day, all machine learning to me, yeah, geometric information compression. All machine learning are about information compression. Now I put structure, I put geometry in it. So it produced structure. And why I chose geometry, and we'll talk about this a little bit, because that relates to some of the question that I got from you, Felipe, yeah, about group or about category. Yeah. I don't do the representation equivariance only, because representation equivariance, like the mainstream of geometric deep learning, which is very, very useful, you have data. Okay, you have data. With the data, people do transformation that equivariance, not changing. It's a convolutional neural network, and many of those are in that area, right? But my interest is not only the object transformation. For me, machine learning and intelligence is has two components. It has object and it has relationship among object. Yeah, object and relationship among object. If I do that, yeah, if I'm interested in object and relationship, not only object, then group is not enough. Yeah, group is not enough because I need something that richer than that to deal with the hierarchy of the object, to deal with relation of the object. I need to deal with composition of relationship. Yeah, because I need to do composition of relationship. Yeah, and if you look at machine learning today, and all these things that I talk, why I work on geometry, because I believe to go to the next level, you need to put structure, and all machine learning today doesn't have structure. If you think about attention, yeah, transformer, dot product, kernel, yeah, dot product kernel, it has no structure. You don't impose anything. Let it learn. Give objective function, let it learn something. Yeah, you can. Okay. But if you put structure, it's going to model the world. Not dumb. Okay. Right now, dumb. That's why it can go left and right, whatever it is. Okay. So that's my belief. But I said not only the object, but the relationship, because I'm interested in. I work a lot that I have not do any publication on this on the knowledge representation. When you start talking about knowledge, it's just relationship. So I have to be able to capture richly not only the object. This is the problem that people do. Yeah, they have object. That object typically people do it through embedding, and the relationship. Okay, that's they just do transformation from object to object. Well, I'm not only doing transformation object to object. Transformation for me is relationship, and relationship need to have structure as well. So, okay, you have question. Go ahead.
Yeah, so this has to deal with, you're talking about the attention mechanism and how it's just, optimizing for that optimization problem. And I know one of your recent works was that like the LLMs are hallucinating the reasoning that they can express, but they're not actually doing any reasoning in
Yes.
practice, right? And so
Yes.
idea that, when you apply like a neural network, right, or the attention mechanism, it's essentially just trying to, as you said, optimize for the objective function, which is
Yeah.
usually minimize your loss, right? But
Yes.
sometimes, there's other things that you have to consider in that objective function, right?
Yeah.
That are important and very important for the model to truly learn something. So, for
Yeah.
example, one of the things we are going to be looking into, taking inspiration from physics-informed neural networks, is
Yeah.
researching something that is new, and we have some students from the linguistics Olympiads who are joining,
Yeah.
called linguistics informed neural networks, right? So essentially informing sort of certain linguistic regularization parameters into the
Yeah.
model. And
Yeah.
when optimizing for the objective function, it's not only optimizing to minimize the error, right? It's
Yes.
planning on applying this to languages like indigenous languages that don't
Yes.
have that much, digital data that you can use to train models, right?
Yeah.
Perhaps another language which does have, which is relatively similar and has a lot of data, but
Yeah.
essentially it's enforcing these regularization parameters, which can
Yeah.
enforce a certain way that the model should learn. Uh,
Correct.
and something like we have been realizing over time, and especially I've been realizing over time, is that your loss function, or your loss landscape, sorry, not your loss function, is determined by your optimization function in the model architecture itself, right? And so there are
Mhm.
times where the innovations in the model architecture and then innovations in the loss function can perhaps to help you discover a new global optimum, right, that would not have existed with a previous optimization function or with a previous architecture.
Mm.
And so I think the interesting thing here, and I think the main takeaway for like the people in this meeting is that, right now a lot of the work in machine learning is just throwing more parameters at,
Yeah.
something, right? And
Yeah.
you're not really seeing any big gains on it because, there's a certain point where you're just not going to improve anymore, right?
Yes.
And in
Yes.
fact, often very costly, right, to do all these to do all the training rounds and everything, but
Yeah.
rather in geometric deep learning, right? Not in the both in the conventional sense of, the group equivariance and the category equivariance, but also in the way you're researching it right now, right? I saw one of your recent Substack posts was about, the yield curve, right? And how it's
Yeah.
just a relation, right? That was
Yeah.
very interesting. I was like, oh my gosh, that actually makes a lot of sense, right? Um,
Yeah.
it's about enforcing this geometric structure into the models, right?
Correct. 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 So since you work on the physics informed neural network, which I had a few of those in the past with my people, because in the capital market side is yeah, that's physics informed neural network is one way to put structure, right? Because now you follow a certain stochastics differential equation, or certain differential equation. So that's how you put structure. I tend to which is I call it in the class of parametrics. You have a preconceived parametric structure. That's a good thing. Okay, people do that, and it's important piece. My interest is a little bit more. I'm still interested in data driven. Yeah. Okay, data driven. I'm not going to enforce anything, but can we do in between, enforcing it through geometry? Yeah, and this is one of the things that interesting as well, because people often imposing geometry but using different tool, not by imposing geometry. For example, in machine learning and autoencoder, people do. I have a paper on this actually. You can read that one. People do callback library to make sure that the data that gets generated has the same distribution of the controlling a certain distribution, right? When you do a fine tuning in neural networks to make sure that it doesn't forget with the past, so you measure it with callback library as well. Well, what you do right there, you use the callback library, use distribution, okay? But what you really trying to do there is not distribution. You try to control the geometry. Yeah, that geometrically are the same or close. Yeah. So I sometimes, well, why don't people do geometry? Because they don't have geometry in their toolbox. Yeah, They don't understand. They don't do geometry in the toolbox. And if you work on neural network, it's all geometry, but people don't expose it. This is why deep geometric deep learning people trying to do, right? Trying to do that. But I'm approaching it a little bit different. I'm trying to make it broad. Basically, not only geometry on the object. I'm looking also on the relationship. Yeah. So that's to me, it's just I try to put. I'm working on putting logic in language model because language model doesn't have logic, right? It can it can write something that sounds logical, but it doesn't live with logic. Okay, so I'm working on the logic side, but I work on the logic side is when you work on the logic side, typically fall into a different branch of mathematics, discrete mathematics, proportional logic. Well, I say, well, I do proportional logic. It's not compatible with the machine learning. So I have to make it differentiable logic. Those I do geometric algebra. Because geometric algebra, I can do differentiable logic. Then I can train it as a machine learning. Okay, so that's part of it. As you look at things, then because of my background as engineer, I don't come from math. I come from the problem. Yeah, and then from the problem, I look at what math that will be self-consistent. So that's how I approach things. If I put this math, I have to switch around different math. That's not nice because I have used this and then I jump using this. I'm using this. That's not good. Okay. So I'm looking at math that is self-consistent. And this is typically physics people is doing this all the time. Okay. Okay. You see a lot of math invented by physics people, right? Because they say, okay, this is what I'm trying to explain. If I cannot explain it, I invent the math. Yeah. So my approach is more like that. So I look at the problem and I'm going to solve the problem. I want to impose regularization is geometry, if you think about it. Yeah. And then say, okay, there's all of these things, it's geometry for me. Okay, how? Because if I put it, I can do it consistently using the same framework for many solutions. Then if I cannot solve it, then I branch out to different math different math brands. Does that make sense? Yeah. But at the end of the day, I believe if you look at all the things people do regularization, even in training, okay, if you do neural networks training today, you use Muon. Yeah. What's Muon do? Do geometric regularization by having the norm of W, okay, norm of weight. Okay, why do you do that? Why not just imposing it in the architecture? Well, I impose it in the architecture, okay, or impose it in the learning itself in hard imposing by polar coordinate. So that's what I do. So I work on what I call it rotation only rank approximation. Okay, because I guarantee it's going to be geodesic. Okay, it's going to be in the unit sphere. Okay, I don't have to put a penalty on my objective function. Okay, because it's constrained to work in that space. So that's it's just because of flavor that I have in my engineering training, engineering design, in risk management, thinking of how can I control it better. Okay, control it better by imposing it in the architecture. Okay, imposing it instead of soft imposing. Then if I cannot do it, it's hard. Then yeah, I'm going to do through the objective function through a soft imposing softly on this. Yeah. That's what I'm interested in is really geometrically understand from the data, geometrically control the transformation and the relationship. Yeah, I hope that answered. Yeah, and why mechanistic interpretability is so important because machine learning always do shortcut. It's going to give you according to objective function answer that but wrong answer. Yeah. So then you need to know if this is doing the right answer or not. Then that's what mechanistic interpretability to make sure that machine learning not taking nonsense shortcut because it will. because it doesn't understand. Yeah, it doesn't have structure.
Yeah, I think that's great. Thank you so much. That definitely like I had like five questions and I think you answered like almost all of them through this discussion. Um,
Yeah,
yeah, so I think like so two of the people in the meeting right now, me and Raj are going to be doing computer vision, and we're going to be working with like category and group equivariance. So like enforcing that in world models, although that is
yeah,
very ambitious research topic, obviously, but we will try our best. We
yes,
want to try to get world models to respect symmetries, as a
yes.
ambitious, but it
Well, well, I think this is the thing. Symmetry is on the object group dealing with symmetry, but world is beyond symmetry, in my opinion. Yeah, that's why you're talking about category. The category is broader than group. Uh, so I feel like you need to have well, I feel like symmetry representation is good, but it's limited. You have to go beyond symmetry, in my view. Those, yeah.
yeah.
So,
Yeah. Also, the other two people in this committee who are going to be working in a field that you have previously worked in is in quantitative finance. So
mm,
we're going to be working with neural operators for stochastic partial differential or partial stochastic differential equations,
yeah.
and various other projects at it. Like I that's the one I propose, but they can choose their own projects.
Where are you guys located? The one that work on quantitative finance.
Oh, they're like
I
we're all in different.
there are a few people that work in the quantitative finance on this part. Okay. If you look at in my LinkedIn connection, his name is Bernard Hines. Okay, Bernard is used to work in my team. We wrote paper together in stochastics differential equation in on deep learning. So we do BSDE, backward stochastics differential equation, to solve a lot of quantitative finance problem. So you may want to contact Bernard. He's now, I think, he's a professor at NYU. Okay, he got his PhD from NYU Quran. He's a mathematician. So you may want to talk to him because he has a deep knowledge on BSDE, okay, and stochastics PDE. He lived with this, okay, for many, many years when he used to work for me. Okay, we wrote a few papers together in the past, in the early days of PIN, the early days of physics informed neural network, the early days of backward stochastic differential equation. So reach out to him. He's an expert on this.
Do you think you could connect us with him
Yeah,
possibly?
yeah. If send me a message in LinkedIn,
Okay.
and then I'll connect you guys in LinkedIn.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then
So
oh wait, go ahead.
he has wealth of experience in quantitative finance. He used to work. He used to be my quantitative finance researcher at Wells Fargo.
Awesome.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we're going to be doing another George has some ideas for his quantitative finance projects as well. So we might be doing some other projects and I wanted to ask, I'm sure you're very busy, but if you would like to help out with those, we'd love to have you like get your insight on certain projects that we're doing.
Yeah, yeah. Happy to if it's related to my interests. I one of the things that I'm doing now because I retired, right? I retired and I became like graduate student again. It's which I enjoy so much. This is something that I have been the 20, I did 25 years. I call it management entertainment. Okay, as a senior executive, I used to let me think this one because this is let me say this one because this is you are early in your career, early in your things. You want to look at the path of the future. I when I retired when Wells Fargo, I report to chief risk officer who report to the CEO. Yeah, two down from the CEO of very large Fortune 500 company. Yeah. If you think about people at that level, nobody touch technical anymore. The job is management entertainment, talking BS all the time, management BS. Okay. I have to spend my time in my weekend time writing paper. That's why I don't know if you look at my, sometimes it's embarrassing. I don't know my age index in Google, probably 30 something. Okay. It's crazy. It doesn't make sense because that's not my job. Okay. To write paper. My job was doing HR stuff. Okay. Doing management stuff. Yeah. But I still write paper. Okay. And today, when I retired, I'm back to, you saw it, I write paper. I'm working on an area that is underexposed. Geometric algebra is incredible, incredible tool, but data scientists don't understand, don't have any clue. Okay, machine learning people don't have any clue of geometric algebra. Yeah. So I feel like, okay, let me just write it down, give bunch of example, random example. That's my Substacks, right? My Substacks is random example. This is okay. Today I want to talk about the subject. Yield curve it is. Tomorrow, language model hallucination it is. Okay. This weekend I'm going to publish about consumer credit. Okay, consumer credit it is. Okay. Next time I will do I did the market rotation. Market rotation it is. I'm going to talk about the volatility surface. Volatility surface it is. Okay, so I did random stuff here on this, but I just try to motivate people that hey, this is a very very neat tool that you need to learn beyond because the idea is really put structure. Yeah, put structure on the data, put structure on the relationship. And I even sometimes tease people. People do causality. In machine learning, people want to do causality. And this is why important mechanistic interpretability is causality. Yeah. And people do causality where causality came from econometrics. Okay. And their tool is probability. Then I published a while back something like a prank, like a joke. Okay. Your tool is wrong. Okay. Politely. Okay. Give an example, a simple example that your causality tool is wrong. Okay. And then I show them how to use geometric algebra. Okay. To get the causality. I was expecting some of my friends that work on this is going to jump up and down and swearing and going to kill my idea. I was trying to get that purposefully, but nobody disputed it. Okay, right there. Yeah. So that's at the end of the day is whatever it is. There's a lot of the basic techniques, basic mathematical things that the data scientist and machine learning engineer not very exposed. There's a lot of them that because I feel very strongly machine learning today they don't put enough structure.
So you would say that geometric algebra is like a very good direction to head in, right?
For me, yes, because it's useful for what I do. Yeah, uh, I uh, because I don't want to go too deep on topology. Okay, some people go deep on that. Okay, and some people go deep on differential geometry. I said, okay, sometimes you get carried away with the math. Okay, not the forget the objective. And to me, why do geometric algebra? Then this is the problem, people that with geometric algebra too. Okay, so I'm going to get nasty message because it's going to be on YouTube, right? So, so the purists of geometric algebra, they want to be pure in geometric algebra. Or computationally is hard, okay, and no tool out there. So I bastardize geometric algebra. The principle need to be geometric algebra, but I want to do very fast computation with the tool today. I don't want to build geometric algebra tool that is slow to compute. Yeah, that is very hard to compute. So I do geometric algebra, then I solve it with linear algebra. Okay, so all the things that I wrote and my Substacks, if you look at it, so I'm not following the purists of geometric algebra. I'm not following the purists of a geometric deep learning because if you want to do geometric algebra, anything beyond 3D, beyond Clifford 3.0, is hard computationally. Okay, so I do high dimensional because language model is 1,000 dimension. How are you going to do geometric algebra in 1,000 dimensions? You cannot do it. So I find a way. Okay, so you see it, what I did. So I use Cayley transform and all of those things to make it, to convert it so that I can do linear algebra computation to do what geometric algebra do. Yeah, so it's very important as you think about your research because you're not going to depend if unless you want to invent new tool to do computation with fast. I don't. Okay, I choose my things that I want to do. I don't want to spend time on this. So what is the best way to do? Yeah. So I do geometric algebra. Everything I do is in there now because I want to put structure. But computationally, I accomplish it through linear algebra. Why? Because I have PyTorch. Yeah. So that's what I do. I convert it into tensor and do computation in tensor. A little bit gymnastic. The geometric algebra people will yell at me. Okay. But I accomplish my goal.
Yeah. Great. Awesome. Junsu, Zevi, George, Kushal, and Raj, do you guys have any questions for Dr. Sujianto? No? Okay, great. So I will pose.
Oh, very good. Thank you so much. And math is the most important. Math don't change. 30 years from now, 40 years from now, when you are at my stage, the math still the same.
Yes.
Yeah. Tool that we know it will be different. Yeah. The brute force approach that we have today, I don't think it will last.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I agree as well. That's why we are going into, the geometries and our organization, are like level two resources. Like before you even hear of like a transformer or a graph neural network or any sort of advanced machine learning model, you have
Yeah.
to then how to do gradient derivations for like a three-layer MLP. And like a very low level to like fully understand how to do that and what are you actually doing in the first place, right? Because if you just first move to like the transformer architecture and attention, you're like, what am I really optimizing for, right? Like how do I actually know what I'm doing? And so we
Yeah. And what is it? And you step back because sometimes this is the thing that the training that helped me a lot. Yeah. Because analytical people go deep. The problem with go deep, you lost in the forest. You don't look at the entire things. So this is the opposite of social science people. Social science people, they have no principle. They look at things broadly, but that's not good either. But so you need to step back and say, attention, what is attention trying to do? This is a general kernel representation. How can I do better? Right? Well, you understand what this one is. So I think that stepping not only understand the detailed math, but understand really what is it trying to do. When I read paper, I have ADHD, so I cannot focus. Okay, that's the problem with me. So I have, but I don't read paper. I read ideas. Yeah, I don't read the detailed math. I read the idea behind that math because that's the most important thing. So that you're not just following somebody little footstep. You need to understand the ideas. And then if this is the ideas, this is the big idea. What's missing? What is this trying to do? Can I do it better? Okay. So it's important to go deep on the math, but step back to understand what's the idea behind it.
definitely I think there's the question in the chat from Kushal.
Yes. So so you look at it thinking about adding structure. Yeah. If you look at, I gave you an example before. People trying to do adding structure. People adding structure can be done by two things: by imposing in the model architecture itself or in the objective function. If you're thinking about, okay, my I'll give a simple example: attention. Okay, attention has no structure beyond just simple dot product kernel. Well, what your dot product kernel want to do? Oh, I want to have if it's we dealing with time series. I want to have the relationship with data before and data before to be relationship is exponentially weighted. More that's important. The more reasons, more important, less important. Past data is less important. So you put structure. Yeah. So you control your attention to behave like that. Okay. So that's then become for some for me because I understand kernel machine. It's just kernel machine. Now let me control the kernel chip. I control the kernel behavior. Yeah. So that's what you need to think about. The geometry is about shape, is about direction. Yeah, in high dimensional. So you control the shape, you control the direction. Yeah, you control the shape, the direction, the volume. Yeah, that's what you do, right? That's how to impose that. Can we impose it through the architecture itself, of my model? Yeah, my mathematical expression, my model architecture, my model implementation, or I shape it through the objective function. Yeah.
Yeah, great. Oh wait, did someone have a question or something? Oh, okay, great. Yeah, awesome. So, Dr. Sujianto, thank you so much. I will be posting the video recording on YouTube, if that's okay with you.
Yeah, yeah,
Wonderful. And then, I will reach out to you about Bernard, if that's okay with you. And then
yes, yes,
we'll hopefully we can like talk again soon. And hopefully we've done some cool geometric deep learning work. And I know it's
yeah, yes.
from
Go
yours.
beyond the geometric deep learning, okay? Because geometric deep learning, just thinking about group, putting symmetry,
We
go
want
beyond that.
we want
Yeah, composition, relation, hierarchy, and all of those are important.
Yeah, we want to what we want. Well, what I saw recently a while ago, I think it was like I forgot the YouTube channel. I think it's called Machine Learning Street Talk. They were talking about category equivariance. I was like, oh,
Yes,
really cool. Yeah,
yes, yes.
we will certainly be looking into that. Actually, that's one of our research topics is again category equivariant world models, right? Again, extremely ambitious, right? Like we're high schoolers and we're
Yeah. This
category.
is, but by the way, this conversation is interesting. Yeah, when you put it in YouTube, this is very deep conversation. So maybe above the head of most people, including machine learning people. Yeah. So it's amazing that I can talk about this subject with you guys.
Thank you. Yeah, we're all
It's
very this like music to our ears. We love hearing about, like geometric deep learning and then not in the group equivariant sense,
yeah,
obviously.
yeah,
About it because not many people are perhaps as familiar with neural networks and optimization functions to such an extent as yourself. And the other interesting thing is that George Junsu and I were all in this international mathematical modeling challenge, and that's how most of us met each other, and that's how the
mm,
organization.
mm,
We all have this experience in math modeling. And we're like, hey guys, you know your math modeling. Let's apply this to AI, right? It's a applied mathematical
yes,
computer science,
yes.
obviously
But
different branches of each, but still.
stay in the math, okay? Don't chase, don't chase the hype or the trend.
We
Yeah,
we
stay on the math.
will certainly stay on the math. And then I was also seeing something about like, hey, I was working with VAEs recently, and I was very interested to see like how the like one of our research groups that we're working with, they're called the Ye Collins Research Group. They were
Mm,
using VAEs. I forget exactly what they were using it for, but they were using VAEs
yeah.
like scientific discovery and essentially like determining the effect of certain latent variables in the latent space. And they use like this a VAE for a specific.
You put the VAE paper a while back that using geometry instead of using Kullback Leibler. They're just trying to provoke idea. They just you put the wrong structure. You
Yeah.
need to put the right structure on your VAE. But anyway,
Yeah, so lots of interesting stuff, and there are certainly lots of other groups that are doing really cool stuff. Ye Collins is doing a lot of like really cool work. We're working with them, or like trying to set up like some projects with them. But yeah, thank you so much. We'll talk again soon, and yeah, thank you. Thank you everyone for attending the meeting, and yeah, talk soon. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Okay.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.